Here it is, our favorite mascot, the low-profile dog. Thanks so much, Zara, for the very nice introduction, and thanks to the entire EmpireJS team for making such a fantastic event possible, and I'm very humbled to be invited to speak here today, and thank you all for coming. I think it's fair to say that not only myself, probably all of you and many other people out there really enjoy contributing to open source or contributing in any way, really. And on the other side, there are open source projects which love contributions. And yet I keep seeing newcomers struggling to find a way to contribute on the one side and open source projects on the other side struggling to find contributions. What is the catch? The catch is that the step from wanting to contribute and actually becoming a contributor is very, very hard. It's much harder than we might think, and it's much harder than it should be, I think. It already starts when you go to Google and you Google for how do I contribute to open source. It is not very helpful. I mean, there are some GitHub help pages, but it's not really a good guideline on how to get started. It's very challenging for many people to overcome the anxiety to contribute. They think they don't have anything to contribute or it's not good enough. They are afraid of even trying, or they just cannot find out how. But even if they overcome all these barriers, more often than not, their experience is not very good. And if something like this happens, they are burned. They're not only burned for this one project they try to contribute to, they are done with open source, at least for a very long time. And I say this is on us, on all of us. I think this is broken, and we have to fix it. So, hi, I'm Gregor. I'm managing the code team at Hoodie, the open source project. The code team is represented by the beaver. They're doing the marshmallows in the back. Accompanied by the low-profile dog and the designer alpaca, the block bear, dog's chicken, the meerkats. You can find all the animals and stories on our website. Check out the stories. They are very, very nice. And all together, we want to make open source welcoming and just awesome for everyone. And despite Hoodie being an independent open source project without any backing by sponsors or a donor, we found our way to become one of the most inclusive and diverse communities out there. So how did we do that? Growing our community is kind of like a conversion funnel in 3 stages. The first stage being to reach out, to go where your contributors are. Once they find their way to our project, we try to make the experience of the first contribution very, very nice and fun. And after the first contribution, we try to keep it fun so that they stick around, or if they leave, they spread the word how awesome it is. But let's start with the first stage, the outreach. Traditionally, open source projects get their contributors through their users, the users of their software. They find a bug, they find that the documentation is lacking, they maybe want to add a feature, so they send a pull request on GitHub, for example, or use some kind of other code hosting platform. But if you only sit around and wait for this to happen, you are missing out. Because there are a lot of people out there who really just want to contribute to open source. They want to be part of an interesting community. They want to work with interesting people, maybe more experienced people than they are. And they're looking for projects where they can do that. And if you just wait for your users to become your contributors, you are missing out of them. And if you have been to the wonderful OSS night yesterday, you would have seen kind of what I'm talking about. There were a lot of people who just wanted to become open source contributors, and a lot of other people actually who wanted to help them. All you have to do is to promote your project where your future contributors are. And there are a few projects that I would like to go through quickly right now. That looks different like Okay, never mind. Sorry. So we'll go through these. Well, that works. So First Timers Only is an initiative by Kansi Dotz and Scott Hanselman. And their idea is that every open source project should have like a small amount, at least, of issues which are reserved and prepared for first timers only, like people who never contributed to open source before. If every project would do that, it would be amazing. Based on that idea, someone created a Twitter account, and it tweets all issues which have the label first timers only with dashes. Your First PR is another account, but it's manually maintained by Charlotte Spencer. And they review every single issue that people bring to them and make sure that it's really, really good and high quality. But as you can see, they are also very popular. So it's really worth investing some time, preparing some nice issues, and then reach out to Your First PR and have them promoted. Code Triage is a project by GitHub. You can submit your repository there, and then people can subscribe to your repository and help you with triaging your issues. And right now they have 10,000 users and nearly 2,000 repositories. There is Google Summer of Code, which is a great way to have someone or several people working on a project for 3 months. Sorry. Inspired by that, there is Rails Girl Summer of Code, which despite the name Rails in it, it's not only about Rails, it's about technology in general. And also instead of having the people working alone, they work in teams, which I think is a great idea. You always have a team of 2. And when you submit your project and you get accepted, you have to promote your project among these teams. And if it works out, like the team of the 2 women get a grant, they get actually paid and work on your project full time. And we got accepted with Foodie last year, and it was a fantastic experience. We had 2 more teams who didn't get accepted and still wanted to work on with us. And this year we got accepted again, so I'm very much looking forward to that. I think that the best way to promote your project is the word of mouth. The word of mouth, yeah. And one reason why it's so much worth it to invest into the experience of people contributing to your project is that they will become ambassadors. Even if they leave after the first contribution, even if they leave without contributing at all, if they see how much you care and how much you invest in it, they will keep that in mind and they will spread the word. Hosting events is probably the simplest way to find contributors in your neighborhood. And I'm not talking about something spectacular like EmpireJS. It can be as simple as an after-hour hacking at your office with 5 to 10 people. Something we do at Hoodie is we call it Meet the Hoodies, which is the most simple thing ever. We just find a room wherever we go. We try to host it. We invite people so they can actually meet the contributors behind it. And yeah, if you wanna see it, we will do one on Saturday, so you can sign up on Taito/Hoodie. Another tip is to not do this just for yourself, just for your project, but actually join forces. I think the format of OSS Night, where you invite new contributors and mentors and open source project to come together is a fantastic format. We did something similar in the past, and we want to do this more in the future and promote the idea. Many open source projects are about more than just code, right? You see an opportunity, you see a problem, you want to change something, and you should talk more about your motivation. This is how you can reach a lot of people. For example, at Hoodie, we try to lower the barriers of people getting access to technology, of people being able to express themselves with technology. So we talk about that. And you have to do it by your own. You can ask for help. Turns out there are people who are really, really good with words. And if they believe in your mission and you are inviting, they will come and help you. Because just as we developers are really good in translating an opportunity or a problem into code, other people are really good in translating something like this into a blog post or a newsletter. And I think that one reason why Hoodie has such a good reputation and such a big reach, besides or despite its very limited resources, is that we have an amazing editorial team with Jan, for example, here from New York, and Cecily Walker from the editorial team, and Lena Reinhardt, who made most of the writing of Hoodie in the early days. I have stickers. So find me. I also have these beautiful cards, but you only get these if you contribute something. Stickers work. Stickers work really, really well, I think. It's a fantastic thing. It's something to be proud of. People put them, on their laptops. They travel the world, and then, someone sees a sticker, and it starts a conversation. I think it's a very nice thing. It somehow belongs to the community, and it also works to promote your project. Making it fun, and that explicitly making it fun for everyone. To make it fun for everyone, you have to create a space that is safe for everyone, because it doesn't matter how amazing your project looks, how shiny it is, how fun it looks. People will not contribute if they do not feel safe. And a great resource for that is Contributor Covenant by Karolina Ada-Emke. But please refrain from just going there and copy and pasting your code of conduct. Make sure to read it. Make sure to document how you will enforce it, and be ready to enforce it, walk it through. According to the definition of the term open source, you are not open source unless you have a license. And not having a license keeps people from using your software, from contributing your software, and it gets you in all kind of trouble. So just get done with it. ChooseAlicense.com. Being inclusive means a lot of ways, means a lot of things. One thing that I see and hear a lot in open source is the definition coders and non-coders. This is how we oftentimes talk. We did this in Hoodie as well in the past. And please stop doing that. You say like coders and the rest, and no one wants to be the rest, right? This is not inclusive. Another thing is to use simple language. Not because you're talking, to younger people. It's because you're talking to an audience which is not always native English speaking, like myself. And if you kind of reduce the amount of words you use, it's much simpler for me to follow your documentation and writing. Try to use gender-neutral language. Use they, them, even if you're talking about a single person. And try avoid, terms like, hey guys. It might not mean a lot to you, but it means a lot, to others. And this is your opportunity to set a tone in your project. And if you're very thorough with it, it will help a lot to limit the amount of, this like entitled, kind of over-demanding, unfriendly requests that we see sometimes in open source. Because if everything is super friendly and there's one person trying to harass you or someone else, it will just look weird. And it will set the barrier high for someone like this. While if you have this around your project and you just let it be, it's like the broken window theory. So keep it clean, it's worth the investment. Lower the barriers, keep them low, and optimize for new contributors at all times. Don't only optimize for speed, security, and features. Keep in mind that you should optimize your project for new contributors and reflect on that. Because something that is very important to remember for new contributors, it's oftentimes not the contribution itself that is challenging, it's the process of contributing. So even if you just have a typo, consider not fixing it, make an issue for it. It sounds weird to you, but for someone else, it's amazing because they can just learn the process and don't have to worry about the contribution. For code, try splitting it up into smaller modules. Like at Hoodie, the Hoodie server is made out of 16 small modules, and it took a lot of effort to do that. But the nice thing is, if someone wants to contribute, they can just contribute to one of these modules. They do not need to understand Hoodie in its entirety. And invest in good tests and 100% coverage, because that allows you to very quickly accept contributions with confidence. I thought I had to do some code. What we used to have at Hoodie is we used to require like a build step. We used to require Bower, Grant, CouchDB. And we went to very far lengths to get rid of all of that. And the only thing you need today is NPM and Git. And this really, really helped to, just streamline the process of becoming a contributor and not worrying about setting up a long runtime environment and setting up CouchDB. When someone comes to you and says, like, hey, I want to contribute, try not to say, oh, yeah, just look through the open issues, because this is a good way to lose a potential contributor. Instead, try to create a dedicated space for new and existing contributors, because it shows that you care. And this is your chance to show what contributions you are interested in, to link to guidelines, to express how much they matter and where people can ask for help. At Hoodie, we have this thing, Hoodie Camp, which is right now just like a GitHub repository, and it has a lot of very nice issues prepared for contributors. But eventually, we want to turn this into more like a dashboard where new contributors can see only the code issues for absolute beginners, for example, and maintainers can see issues which didn't have a comment for 5 days or open pull requests. Imagine you're here about Hoodie for the first time. Okay, well, I mentioned it 20 times now, but just imagine, you're curious and you have some time on your hands, and then you see an issue like this. Probably you think, holy shit, these people really invest a lot of time into this. And this is true. We actually invest a lot of time into this, and exactly for that reaction. Now, you might think, this is not worth it. Like, is this really worth it for a single contribution? And I say, yes, it is. It is a lot of effort, that is true, but it's not about a single contribution, because how many people will see that issue? Certainly more than one. And once the person finished, the contribution, it's also an amazing thing to show to someone who never reviewed a pull request and turn a contributor in someone who can actually maintain your project. It's about creating a community of people who will go out and spread the word about how much you care. So it's one thing to gain new contributors, and it's a whole different story to retain them. Most of your contributors will be volunteers. So you have to be fun. You're kind of doomed to be fun. Because if we are not fun, people will spend their free time somewhere else. So for example, once someone's contribution is ready, probably in the form of a pull request, try to get back to them as fast as possible, even if it's just a comment saying, hey, I will look into this next week. And once, for example, a code contribution is ready, try to release it as fast as possible. What we do at Hoodie is we use something called Semantic Release. And if we merge a pull request, a new release happens automatically within minutes. So the person who contributed a fix, for example, will be very happy because he can or she can npm install a few minutes later and the version is already out, which is a very nice experience. Most communications within open source projects are anonymous, like usually in chats, GitHub issues. And it makes a huge difference when your contributors are able to connect and kind of meet the people behind the project. So something like regular Hangouts is something that works very, really well. What I do personally is I try whenever I have time and there is a new contributor, invite them to a spontaneous call, just like 5 minutes, to say thank you in person and to introduce myself. And it changes all the communication afterwards, because now there is a face behind it, a person and a story. You kind of build meaningful relations, which is not so easy with anonymous chats. A committer can edit code, manage branches, manage issues. So it's a sign of trust when you invite someone to your open source project team. But it's still, you don't need to give up all the control, because you can still, at least at GitHub, you can protect your branches. You can define who can merge things into master. You can define workflows like all the tests must pass, the code coverage must be 100%. At Hoodie, we have an integration with something called lgtm.co, and it requires 2 lgtm comments from maintainers before a pull request can get merged, which works very well for us. So a maintainer, I mean, this is the holy grail. This is what you are looking for. They're in charge to do pretty much creating, maintaining, growing the space for contributors. So they respond to issues, they prepare new issues for new contributors, they document workflows and write tutorials, they summarize what's happening in your community once per week, once per month, so also a wider circle can follow what is happening. Say thank you and say it in public. This is very, very powerful. It's about fostering a culture of appreciation in your community. That's what we do at Hoodie with regular shoutouts, for example, on our blog. And I was part of a large field study on Wikipedia, which resulted in that an only symbolic award increased the retention rate of new editors by 25%. So this is very, very powerful, even if there is nothing, like no money attached or no value attached. If it's just a public appreciation, it will change people. Avoid private discussions. Like all discussions in your open source project should be publicly, and you should give it enough time for people to, good morning, for people to comment on it. And so just try to be as, I don't know, what's this a sign? Do I have to hurry up? I'm nervous. So be transparent. And most importantly, when it comes to money, money can be poison in a volunteer environment, so be very transparent about that. And there is a new project called Open Collective, which I think is very promising, which allows you to receive recurring funding by backers and sponsors in a very transparent way, and you don't even need a legal entity. So one thing is you cannot scale on good intentions alone, because this will just burn you out. With more users, you will need more contributors. And with more contributors, you will need more maintainers. This is very important. So I highly recommend to read Michael's Healthy Open Source, his blog post on that topic, and I will put my slides up during the event. So, as you can see, we give this a lot of thought at Hoodie. It's kind of, if you want, it's something that we figured out, we care about a lot, and now we embrace it and talk about it. And it, again, increases our reach, like me talking about it here today, and you all know about Hoodie. But still, there is so much more that we can do. Because creating the super friendly starter issues that I've shown you, it is actually a lot of work. Just finding out who contributed to your project in the past week, this is not easy. It's maybe easy for code, but code is not the only contribution you will have in your project. Or showing appreciation for someone's contribution is not really integrated into our workflows today. JavaScript. So what does this all have to do with JavaScript? I mean, Hoodie is JavaScript, so I wonder, is this the reason why we care about this so much? When you think about EmpireJS and where it's coming from, it was inspired by JavaScript events like this, JavaScript events that put the people first. And you can see today what came out of it, and I think it's amazing. And you can also see it at Brooklyn.js, Manhattan.js here in New York, Jersey.js, Queens.js. I haven't been to all of them, but I've heard they are really, really cool. And they're all inspired, by events years ago, which foster this culture that we have today in the JavaScript community. And I think it has something to do that JavaScript is weird, that JavaScript is simple, that the barriers are very, very low. We have a lot of people in our community who do not care about code as much, as others. And I think this is great. Because with all these different backgrounds and perspectives and ideas, we actually have to care more about how we treat each other, how we work together, because we are not very similar. I think if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this talk, is that code is really not the challenge, but people are. And I think we are actually pretty good at it. So I want to invite every one of you to lead the way, and let's make open source awesome for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Gregor, for that talk. Could you join me out here on the couch, if you would be so kind? There's one thing that's always been I want to get out of the way. Is there a hoodie? Is there like something anywhere in the chain?
No. So the hoodie is a running gag. We think the hoodie is something we have to earn. It keeps us motivated since over 4 years now. We are not there yet where we want to get. And the hoodie probably will not be a hoodie with a logo on it, but it will have its own style, so it will be recognizable. But you can put your own logo on it.
It's an open source.
A little sneak.
I remember at a conference a few years ago, someone submitted a bug that was conference T-shirt too small on the official jQuery bug tracker. So it gets. A serious question though is like, how long do you kind of if you think of some of the starter issues as low-hanging fruit, how long do you let something like that sit before it starts to be like bad, worse that there's like a typo, or worse that there's a thing? Where do you draw that line?
So, I mean, a typo is not very,
right.
Doesn't live long, but ahead of an event like yesterday, we usually prepare events like this. We put even, usually a little banner saying this ticket or this issue is reserved for an event like the OSS night or Meet the Hoodies on Saturday. We, of course, don't create issues for things on the critical path in our community, but things that are just nice to have on the site. So there's no time pressure, but this doesn't really matter for contributors.
That's awesome. So can you tell everyone again about what's going on this weekend and where and what they can do?
Okay, yeah, so you can go to ti.to/hoodie, and the first event there will be the Meet the Hoodies, which will happen in New York downtown at the Meetup headquarters, which is funny, Meetup, but we use title. And yeah, you can just come over, you can work on hoodie. There will be a lot of hoodie core contributors there, there are a lot of people here in New York. It will be just very nice to meet you. Yeah.
Well, that means, I guess we all know what we're doing this Saturday. It's going to be a very large hackathon. Thank you so much, Gregor.